Hi, I'm Nick, and on this episode of First Pour Wine, we're going to be continuing to talk about Rosé with two wines from Charles Smith Winery. Now, Charles Smith Winery was grateful enough to actually send me these two samples of wine, one of which from the Vino brand and one of which is from the Charles & Charles brand. And we're actually going to start off today, instead of talking about the wine, talking about Charles Smith and the winery itself. So, Charles Smith is actually one of those winemakers who actually has that sort of passion that drives the wine industry. So, think of him like a chocolatier who, is really infusing his mark into the industry. He's making a brand, he's building up the reputation of an area, and really making delicious wines. Now, Charles Smith, like everyone else, wasn't always into wine. Way back when, he actually started out by heading over to Europe, for a lady, of course, and ended up managing a Danish rock group. They weren't really a rock group. I guess they were more punk. But anyways, I haven't heard of them. They're the Ravenettes. Check them out if you'd like. Maybe you can link it up. I don't know. We'll find out. But he ended up managing them. And as a tour manager, he ended up going around having a lot of different wines and dines and found out that he actually really liked wine. So when he moved back to the United States in 1999, he decided, hey, I'm going to give this a shot and make my own wine. Partnering up with another winemaker, they released K. Vintner's Syrah to 1999 and 2001, which, if you've never had K. Vintner's anything, go out and get yourself a bottle of Syrah. It's a little expensive, but it's really delicious. I love it. Matter of fact, if I had some right now, we might not be doing these wines, we still would. Rosé is refreshing in the summer, but God, it's delicious. Anyways, so with that in mind, after he produced the K. Vintners, he actually went on to produce a couple of other brands. He produces Vino, he produces Charles & Charles, he makes Sixto, Casa Smith, so he's really, really growing. And one of the interesting things about Charles Smith is his philosophy on wine, which I want to read a little bit to you on. What he says is, my mission has always been to make sure everyone has access to good wine regardless of the price point. Good wine doesn't mean expensive wine. It means good wine. I make wines that are on the higher end of the scale as well as more affordable wines. Making something that's highly drinkable, super delicious, and affordable means I'm doing my job as a responsible winemaker. I'm going to keep doing this, expanding by looking at what I think is missing from wine and what would shift the general perception. Well, Charles, you've done a fantastic job so far, and I encourage you to keep going based on what we've seen out in the market so far. For those of you who might not be familiar with these two, he's also responsible for wines like the Velvet Devil and Kung Fu Girl Riesling, which are both great as well. So, enough about Charles Smith, enough about all the wonderful wines he makes. Let's give these two a shot. Now, these two wines are actually kind of interesting. In what they sent to me, they sent me these lovely handy-dandy fact sheets. I'm pretty sure you can actually find these right on their website. But these two fact sheets actually tell me something really interesting about these wines. When you start looking at, say, the acidity of the wine and the pH of the wine and the residual sugar and all those wonderful things, these two wines are actually almost identical. So what makes them different? Well, the Charles & Charles Rosé is a blend, principally made of Syrah with a couple of other grapes in there, and the Vino is actually made of 100% Sangiovese. So, this grape is a single varietal, whereas this one is a blend. These two wines typically make very different styles, and having had a little bit of exposure to them before shooting the video, I can tell you that if you're going to taste both of these at the same time, you're going to want to start with the Vino. It is a lot more subtle than Charles & Charles Rosé. So, how is it? As you can see, just from looking at them, you can tell that the Vino is a little bit on the lighter side. It's more of a kind of blushy color. Whereas when you look at the Rosé, it's a lot deeper. More of a, let's say, rosy pink. Kind of with a deeper, I'm missing the word, but you get the point. It's a lot darker. So let's give them both a smell. We'll start with the Vino. The Vino. Okay, so here it's a little bit more of a melony smell. So kind of think of like cantaloupe with a little bit of cherry mixed in and kind of a floral note. It's very refreshing, but it's definitely on the melon side, which when you think about rosé isn't the first thing that comes to mind. Let's give this one a smell. So the Charles & Charles, by contrast, has much more of a kind of cherry, blood orange thing going on. However, there's a nice note of rhubarb in here, which is fun. Now, these two wines have this kind of same rock candy back note to them to me, where there's a little bit of kind of a sugary, kind of candy-like fruit smell. Both have a great smell. You wouldn't be disappointed in either of them. Let's give them a little sip. So, Vino, very light, bright, happy, kind of happy to see you, kind of like a waggish dog, very fun. Same melony notes come through. A little bit of like raspberry and orange zest. Very, very fun. That floral note kind of lingers in the background, and the whole thing kind of putters out on the ending in a nice, smooth, relaxing, refreshing kind of way. Very good. Let's give the Rosé a shot, Charles and Charles. So, whereas the Vino is very happy to see you and very easygoing, the Charles and Charles Rosé is in your face, roller coaster of fruit flavor. So, all over the board, we got strawberry, we got cherry, everything's kind of going up and down, a lot of brightness, a lot of acidity, very refreshing and bright, but just all over the place in terms of its fruit flavors. Orange, a little bit of that rhubarb flavor from before, a little bit of floral note here and there, all over the place. Good stuff, but a little bit muddly in the number of different fruits going on. So, very good for both of them. To be honest, if I had to pick, I like the Vino a little bit better. But for the Charles and Charles Rosé, I'd give this an 88. And for the Vino, I would give this an 89. Both of these are standout rosés at around the $12 point. You're not going to be disappointed with either of them, so definitely give them both a try if you like. And you're going to have happy guests. If you like your wine a little more subtle, Vino's for you. If you want it a little more aggressive, definitely try the Charles and Charles. So that's all we have time for today. As always, as Charles Smith Winery can test, samples are always welcome. And I'm happy to have everyone watch along. So thanks for watching. If you've got comments or experience with these, definitely post them up in the comments. Subscribe on the YouTube. Love to have more subscribers. Love to see more of you liking and subscribing and commenting. And feel free to follow on Instagram. So thanks for watching. Cheers.